You're listening to The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter podcast. Like us on Facebook at Business Plan Radio and follow us on Twitter at BizPlan Radio. That's B-I-Z Plan Radio. You can view our latest content on our Business Plan Radio YouTube channel. The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter airs Monday nights at 7 on your community station, 89.7 in mid-Michigan, or online at lccradio.org.
Hello everyone, good evening and welcome to the first ever episode of The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter, a forum for entrepreneurs, business students, and professionals to come learn, get motivated, share experiences, and discuss how to grow our business and the business community as a whole. I am Ryan Carpenter, your humbled host and moderator for these discussions. And today I am extremely excited, not just because it's our first show, but because we're instantly going to be bringing value to the listeners of this program. My guest today is Lori Lonsdorf with the Small Business Development Center located right here at Lansing Community College. I don't know everything. Quite frankly, most of the information that I will be presenting to you throughout these episodes to come are going to be from my experience as a business owner in the business world. I started a media production company 3 years ago now. And so even though I have 2 bachelor's degrees, I'm telling you right now, most of what I know about business has been learned by being out there and doing it. And so hopefully my experience, I will be able to help to shine light on some of the experiences that I've had that will hopefully help you moving forward with your business or whatever your endeavors are. So what exactly is this show and how will it help my business or me as a listener? Well, what I set out to create was a forum geared towards the entrepreneurs and business students out there that highlight some of the different resources that are available and tell some of the stories and motivation from entrepreneurs and professors, industry professionals, all people who have gone through this and have amazing stories to tell. You know, we all go through similar circumstances in starting a business. And so, sometimes when it's tough, it's good to hear that other people have gone through it too, so that you know that you're not alone. To me, business is a huge passion. My mind doesn't simply stop thinking about business, whether it's coming up with a cool new idea or poring over the many different strategies that I would like to implement within my own company. And this passion has cost me some relationships, one recently. I'm sure that it can probably be overwhelming, but entrepreneurs and problem solvers, we can't change the fact that we see the world differently. When other people see problems, we see opportunities to develop solutions. Other people don't get that when we're completely broke and are working for nothing, that we see the bigger picture. We know that this is merely a step in the process, and fortunately for us, we have the backbone to see it through. And that's really where the difference between companies that make it and don't fall. Are you going to overcome that hurdle and push through it, or are you going to just simply give up? See, the beautiful thing about business, or especially entrepreneurship and working for yourself, is that you're in control of your own destiny. If times are tough, simply make more phone calls. Close more deals, and things will change. I get it. It's not that easy, but believe me, it's a lot more true than it is false. When you work for someone else or when you put your faith in a company that you have no control over, you have no control. They can make some crazy decision that, causes the business to fold, or, they could just simply no longer see the need or benefit in your position. Any number of things. But when you work for yourself, you live and die by your own sword. And to me, that's one of the most thrilling and comforting things at the same time. You can still die, but at least it's by your own sword. Should everyone start a business? No, probably not. But everyone should figure out at least how to be the best at whatever it is that they do or what their job is, so that when it comes down to you or someone else, you are viewed as the least replaceable of the two. Business is not nice. It is not fair. Not everyone gets a trophy at the end of the season. We all get tax forms, but that's about the only guarantee. So, as I want this to be uplifting and motivating, I will be honest and I will call things out when they need to be called out. I'm not here to paint myself as a saint. I understand that a lot of times I need to follow my own advice and listen to what I'm saying. I get it. It's difficult. When you're just trying to simply get by, it's hard to really stick to a process. I've been there. I get it. It's difficult. In my eyes, I'm still there. I still have a lot to learn and hope that together, you and I, along with the many awesome guests that we will be bringing in for you, can help to keep each other honest. And hopefully this show can be that 1 hour a week that you give yourself to grow and reflect about your own career and about business. Earlier this year, I came up with another one of my wacky ideas. I had a light bulb moment. One of those moments where even though you're not necessarily actively trying to think of something, it just materializes in your brain and all of a sudden there's an idea. The only problem, though, was that I was trying to figure out how to develop a new technology. Well, not a new technology, but a new use for an existing technology, which was to create a fully interactive augmented reality experience for retail. So obviously an extremely expensive venture to start. Since it requires a lot of programming, large cost for equipment, to develop and test, and then also to demonstrate the actual system moving forward. And so I've seen a lot of virtual reality companies starting to make a really big splash on the scene and garnish a lot of investment and buzz. Companies like Microsoft's HoloLens, Facebook's Oculus Rift, and HTC's Vive were and still are working hard to develop the next wave of virtual reality goggles. I noticed there being a huge downside to the goggles and really had a hard time seeing the potential effectiveness of using these goggles in a retail setting. So to me, or my personal beliefs, were that when someone could figure out how to use this modern technology and blend it seamlessly with the real world, that's really where the race to virtual augmentation is going to be won. So I thought I had an answer, I believed, to a question that, only a few people were even really seeking out. Being as that I started Real Digital, or my media production company, 100% bootstrapped or with $0 invested, for those of you not familiar with the term, it was hard for me to wrap my head around what the next steps needed to be in order for me to get the ball rolling on this system. I knew my first steps were obviously be to come up with a name and get incorporated, purchase the URLs and start to build the websites and social media sites to ensure cohesive branding across the many outlets. My next step, being the bootstrapped entrepreneur that I was to reach out to auto dealerships, as the auto industry was the first industry that I decided to develop the technology for, to get meetings set up with the right trigger pullers and decision makers. See, when you're starting a business with no money or with little money, the best way to get started from a capital standpoint is to just simply make your first sale. Sell people on the idea and then develop the product around that first sale. Depending on what it is, obviously, that could be an extremely difficult task. Me selling video or animation wasn't extremely difficult because people already knew what animation and video was. It was just a matter of whether or not we could do it, and we could. But when you're developing a new technology, a lot of times you have to kind of show people what it is that what you're telling them, because they have a hard time wrapping their head around it. So I was in one of those extremely frustrating catch-22s of business. I needed money to have a product to sell, but in order to get the money, I needed a product to show the investors so that they could buy into it. There's a number of ways in which capital can be raised, and we'll devote entire episodes to those different ways moving forward. Today, we're not going to really touch too much on them because, like I said, we will touch on that later on down the line. Anything from angel investment to going through accelerators, stock issuance, partnerships, many options. So my options, though, were not all simply just finding investors to take a percentage of my business. But not having gone through the fundraising process before, I was not really 100% familiar with what my options were or what my next best step should be. While seeking out some information and perusing the internet, I ended up coming across an organization called the Small Business Development Center. And upon further looking into their LinkedIn and social media sites, I realized that I actually knew a person that worked there. I had met Lori Lonsdorf back in, I believe, 2011, maybe 2012, when we were on the board of directors together for the Old Town Blues and Jazz Festivals. She's a senior business consultant at the Small Business Development Center. So I reached out to her to set up a meeting to see how they could help my company officially get started. And after meeting with her and explaining my idea, she really saw the benefit, got me in contact with another business coach whose name was Jody Burgess. And Jody came out to our office, listened to my idea, and started doing what other people didn't do, which was to look at the fine, minute details that I didn't even think about, and started asking me questions about those, because those all needed to be ironed out before we could really get this thing rolling. She worked with me on understanding the concepts of a minimal viable product, or MVP, and what the next steps should be for us in the short term. She also got me in contact with some other individuals who are involved with the SBDC, whose expertise or experience maybe were a little bit more in line with the market that we were specifically trying to target. The SBDC it gave me access to a soundboard, though, that I could fine-tune and hone in on my idea. Their experience and access to a knowledgeable network of individuals allowed me to think about my company from a different angle, to ask questions I probably wasn't going to ask myself. And the organization, it has a lot of connections, a lot of access to development training, fundraising potential, a lot of other things. I'll let Lori touch on that when she comes in here. But working with them was such an awesome experience. And even though we haven't raised the capital necessary at this point, the process does sometimes take a while. But I do know, though, that after working with the SBDC and knowing that I will continue to do so means that my plan and goals will be developed in conjunction with people who actually care. Their main goal is to help me succeed. That's a crazy thing to think about, and they don't charge me for it, which is even crazier. But Lori and the team over at the Small Business Development Center are such a great resource to tap into. They're federally funded, and again, like I said, their main goal is to help businesses to start and grow. A lot of work has been put into establishing the network that they have established, and so, I'm so excited to bring this information to you. And for those of you who are not aware of what the SBDC is or what they do, hopefully today's program will shine some light and provide you with enough information to see the benefits of working with this organization. Business is hard. There's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of responsibilities that all have to be taken care of. And when you're a sole proprietorship or a small company with only a few employees, it's tough to make sure that each of these tasks get taken care of correctly. The SBDC will help to make that process slightly easier. They're the big brother that will come to your defense when you're getting bullied in the schoolyard that is the marketplace. They're the older siblings who have already waged those battles with mom and dad and have blazed the trail prior to you, so they already know the secrets. They've already been there. So with an organization like that at our disposal, as business owners, it would behoove us to take advantage of it. The business is hard enough as it is, so why not tie into a group whose sole goal is to make your business successful? I'm going to give you a little bit of information for future reference, so you guys have it. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Business Plan Radio. That's Business Plan Radio. Gmail, if you want to call or if you want to send us any emails or questions or things along those lines, is businessplanradio@gmail.com. And our Twitter, you can find us at BizPlanRadio. That's BIZ Plan Radio. And if you do have any questions, this show is previously recorded, but moving forward, we are going to have all of these shows be live. So in those instances, if you have any questions or you have an idea that you'd like to bounce off of us, off of me or one of my guests, feel free to call in. We'd love to have that conversation. Again, this is supposed to be an open dialogue, so please don't make me be the only one talking. The number there is 517-372-3071. Again, that's 517-372-3071. 888-888-3071. We would love to talk with you and engage with our listeners, so please feel free to do that moving forward. We're going to go to a quick break, and when we come back, I will have Lori fill us in on what the SBDC is, what it has to offer, and some of the cool things they're working on over there. You're listening to the first ever episode of The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter on your community station, 89.7 LCC Radio.
You're listening to The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter podcast. Like us on Facebook at Business Plan Radio and follow us on Twitter at BizPlan Radio. That's B-I-Z Plan Radio. You can view our latest content on our Business Plan Radio YouTube channel. The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter airs Monday nights at 7 on your community station, 89.7 in mid-Michigan, or online at lccradio.org.
Welcome back to The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter. We appreciate you staying with us. Today we have our first guest and wanted to instantly give our listeners a resource that they could tap into right away. So I have Lori Lonsdorf with us, as she is a senior business consultant at the SBDC Lansing office. SBD stands for the Small Business Development Center. And so, Lori, welcome to the show, and thank you for giving us a little bit of your time.
Ryan, I really appreciate you asking me. I just love the name of your show. It's something near and dear to my heart.
Well, perfect. Well, Lori and I go back a little ways. We actually first met each other on the board of the Old Town Jazz and Blues Festivals, which down the line, we're going to actually be recording these shows, so you'd be able to see the posters over my shoulder. But for today, just pretend like you can. So we worked together on those and helped to put on some of those different events, and we're able to meet then. So it's fun to come full circle and to be able to have you now on my radio show. And so it's always weird how those little networking things end up.
You know, Lansing is a small community, and you connect with people in a variety of different ways.
Oh, yeah. So actually, why don't we start just by kind of giving a little bit of background on yourself, just so that our listeners understand why I brought you in. You're not just some random person off the street. So why don't you just give us a little bit of background on your professional life and what took you to the SBDC?
Right. Well, first of all, the SBDC is located here at Lansing Community College, and I've been the senior consultant here for 4 years just about. But I used to run my own business. I was a marketing consultant, a marketing copywriter, which means somebody who creates marketing content. And I did that for about 12 years when I lived in Seattle. I did used to live here in Lansing, so it wasn't coming back. But, I worked one-on-one with a lot of mom and pop businesses, kind of guiding them through the marketing process and creating, content for their websites and for the brochures. I did a lot of networking. I had some big clients as well. I did some projects for Boeing, some for Microsoft, but it was the small businesses that really connected with me, because you could see the impact that doing some marketing could really have on their bottom lines.
Right. Yeah, obviously, when you're in a well-known business, I would imagine I own a media production company, so I kind of get the marketing realm. That's what one of my degrees is in. But I can definitely see that on this, when you work with smaller businesses, the impact is definitely a little bit more obvious. When you get into these bigger companies, sometimes it's like, well, what are you really doing for us? So that's always interesting. But yeah, so you had done marketing out in Seattle, and what brought you back?
Well, I came back kind of during the recession, and just
the complete opposite of everyone else in the state of Michigan.
I know, isn't that funny? Well, I think it's sort of a big fish in a small pond thing, and Seattle's a wonderful community, but it's large and it's very tech, and and I kind of felt a little bit chewed up and spit out through 2 recessions, and so I was ready to make a change. I came back with a friend and just wanted to try something different. The first job that I took was actually a startup business. And I don't know if I've told you this story before, but I worked for, it was a professor at MSU, and he had a spin out business, scientific based, high tech, optimizing ultra fast lasers. So high tech, I can't even tell you what happened.
Yeah, when you invoke the word laser, you're instantly outside of my knowledge base.
Absolutely.
I actually did shoot some video for a laser company called Rofen Sonar, though. So I am somewhat familiar with lasers. But.
Okay, cool.
All right. So if you want to just, so let's see. So you come back to Michigan, and you start working there. How did you get involved with the SBDC? Well, first of all, actually, before I get to that question, kudos to coming back to Michigan. I think a lot of times, especially in those negative environments where money's not there, people are losing jobs. A lot of times people are like, yeah, I need to leave. But really, staying and doubling down almost is probably your best bet to really make it through in the long run. So kudos to that. But what ended up getting you involved with SBDC?
Well, I actually had a friend who referred me. I was doing a lot of networking when I came back. I really took when I worked at that startup company. I was kind of taking that year to figure out what I wanted to do. Did I want to relaunch my business here? Did I want to do something else? And so doing a lot of networking, and I met Tom Donaldson, who is the regional director of the Small Business Development Center, and
super nice guy.
He's a very nice guy. Yeah.
I've enjoyed my multiple conversations with him so far.
Yeah, great mentor for me, and so we just chatted about some opportunities. Eventually, I did some pro bono work for some of their clients. I ended up creating one of my training programs, a branding toolkit for the small business owner, which, since I started there has been something that I deliver, 4 or 5 times a year.
And is there specific times that you typically do that? Is it like a quarterly thing, or is it just kind of sporadic?
It's scheduled. We have our schedule up now, but I don't know but it's no specific time. I don't think we're doing it January, February, but probably March, April, several times a year.
Well, we'll be posting all this information on our social media sites and things along those lines too. So any business events that are out there, if you want to let us know, we would love to be able to be your soundboard to let people know of these different events that are going on, so that as a business community we can all come together, get a chance to meet each other, have conversations, and really help steer the ship. So, so we'll be able to post that stuff later on. Our social media, I'll let you guys know what all of that information is here towards the end of the show, just so we all have that. With it being our first show, we're not super engaged today. There's not going to be anyone calling in or anything along those lines. So I'll give you all that information at the end of the show for next week. Kind of like homework for everybody.
That's great.
Come at us on Facebook. But yeah, so you ended up getting in with the SBDC. So did you start instantly as a business consultant there?
That was my role immediately. I took a month or so of training, ramping up, and then my very first clients were really consultants, the kind of people that I understood. So I had a lot of expertise in guiding them through the process of opening their own consultancies. And then as I got a little more training, a little more expertise, I did a lot of shadowing of some of our other consultants across the state, and began working with restaurants, began working with some healthcare companies, just a whole variety.
Okay, well, now that we've kind of gotten to the SBDC and what brought you to there, everyone, you have to have an elevator pitch. On my show, though, we're not in an elevator. We have a little bit of time, so I have what I call the stuck in the elevator pitch, which is a 5 to 10 minute elevator pitch. You're not timed, so if you're under or over, don't feel bad. But so why don't you give me the kind of stuck in the elevator pitch of what the SBDC is, so that the listeners who aren't familiar at least know what the organization does, and at least has that foundation moving forward.
Yeah, great. Well, we're part of a nationwide program of America's Small Business Development Centers across the country. There are more than 1,000 centers with consultants like me, helping people, find success through their small businesses. Here in the state of Michigan, we have a network of 10 regional offices all throughout the state, and I think we have about 100 consultants and staff statewide working. We do essentially three things. We provide consulting, we provide training, and we provide research. And our consulting services are one-on-one. They're confidential because you really need that space to be able to trust that you can share some, confidential information when you sit down.
Extremely confidential.
Yeah, sometimes you're opening the books on your financials.
Yeah, I'd rather someone look at my health records than know what my new idea I'm working on happens to be.
Well, we can guarantee that whatever happens in my office stays in my office because it's really critical to your business, and that consulting session is free. It's absolutely free, and that's because we are supported through the funding of the U.S. Small Business Administration. You may have heard of the SBA, and that's national funding. We get some support through the state, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and then LCC is our gracious host. They've hosted us here for 30 years, and so all this funding comes together, pays for our salaries, and we are able to provide resources for just about any small business in the Ingham, Eaton, Clinton County. We do not work really with nonprofits, so they do need to be for business ventures and of course people looking to start. You don't have to be in business yet. That's a huge part of what we do is we help people through the process, walk them through really the feasibility. Is their idea a good idea? Is there enough of a market for it in this area? And that's kind of where a lot of that market research comes in. So we have our headquarters is at Grand Valley State, and we have a great team of grad students. They have access to some really rich, deep databases for market research, and we can request some good demographics or psychographic reports. That might be a whole nother show to talk about.
Yeah, I think we can have a plethora of topics.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the third thing that we do is training, and we put on 50 to 70 workshops every year. The majority of them are at our center here at LCC, but we also go out around the community. We do a lot of programming at Delta Township Library. That helps us, go out to Eaton County and brings the training a little closer. We also have my colleague Kelly Hanford sets up shop there a couple of Fridays a month so that people can come and counsel there as well. We also go out to other locations such as the Lansing Regional Chamber of Commerce. We partner with them on their business education series, and the SBDC provides all the content for their workshops. In fact, we just did one this week called Learn to Network Like a Pro. We had about 50 people or 70 people attending. I think you were there as well.
I was there.
Yeah,
I was in attendance.
Yeah. And so sometimes we go out to the Allen Marketplace, which is the food incubator and a commercial kitchen. Sometimes we take our programming to Charlotte and, other places here and there. So,
cool. So as far as the research thing's pretty interesting to me. So if I'm starting a business, which I always am, I always have a new one going, we could potentially come to you guys and say, hey, this is what we're starting. We're putting together a business plan. Yeah. And then in terms of all of that information that if you try to Google it, you will never find, you guys will be able to help facilitate some of that. Yeah,
we can help with some of that. Yeah, the problem with Googling is you just don't know how credible the resource is.
That's if you find it.
That's if you find it. So let's say, okay, so starting the business is a great example because if you're starting that business, you might be going to a bank for financing.
Right.
And part of what the bank wants to know is, is this a good idea? And we want to see what sort of data exist in terms of the trends of that kind of industry, and then looking at the potential of the market. And so we would get market research. It's called secondary market research, and that means it's based on data that someone else has culled, and it's usually based on census data. This is demographic information. Demographics are geography, your age, your marital status, income, education, etc. And so we call and we look at different data. So, what's the kind of business you might be starting, Ryan?
Well, I have mentioned before about the augmented reality thing.
Oh, yeah.
So we could kind of talk about that a little bit.
So technology is one area that might be a little harder with our secondary market research, because it doesn't mean we're going out and doing the market research ourselves.
Right.
So if we're looking for something that's new and innovative, I've had people come to me and say, "Oh, I'm creating an app, and I need to know, they ask something so very specific to that kind of app because it's high tech." But if we are looking at the number of people who, let's say, buy cars in a certain area, that might be key. And so we could find that. We could find out what the average spend on cars is in either a county or city, or even we could put in an address. If you were let's say you're going to open a pizza place, okay? There's only
like my dad, for instance, he sells hearing aids.
Hearing aids.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So if he was to branch off from what he's currently doing and start, let's say, a mobile hearing aid.
Yeah.
Where they come to your home, which obviously a lot of typically elderly people. In Lansing, it's not all elderly people. We do have a lot of manufacturing and things like that tends to hurt the eardrums a little bit.
Right, but that's a key demographic. And so that allows us to kind of hone in on our target market. So who's the primary person you're trying to sell to? A lot of people say, "Oh, I want to sell to everyone." Well, the reality is, if you're shooting at everyone, you've heard that expression, throw spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, you're spending your energy, your time, your money that you probably don't have as a startup trying to reach everyone, when really there is this select market that is your best customer, the people most likely to buy from you. So, let's start with that age group. And so we could what we might do, there's one report called a best customer report, and I was looking at some of the health issues just recently. So hearing aids, I think, is in there, and it would probably say, it would describe who the best customer is. They do that for wine, and they do for beer, and they do for for baked goods. So, and we learn who the best customer is in terms of age and household income, because it's not always, what you think.
Right.
And so we could take that, and once we find that age for that best customer, then we'd go into some demographics. And if you're mobile, well, maybe let's say you're going to go within a certain radius.
Yeah, there'd probably be a radius.
Yeah. And so we might put a pin in kind of, where that's going to radiate from might be, and we could run reports on a 1 mile, 3 mile, 5 mile radius, or we could look at, the entire county. And we could see, we check the different age groups and see what percentage or the population are of those people in that area.
And kind of see how that matches with the best customer.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. So what is there a resource that you use for that is open to people, or is it something that the SBDC kind of has internally within their network across the country?
Both. We have access to certain databases and market research reports that just we use. But we are in a wonderful time here in Michigan, and there is just a phenomenal resource. It's called the Michigan Electronic Library. It's mel.org. And anyone in Michigan can go online. You don't have to plug in a password, and it gives you access to the same market research that the big companies pay for. It's really astounding. And there are several different programs in there. One's called Business Decision, the other one's called Demographics Now, and they both offer just a real depth of data. It takes a little bit to understand them. So I'm going to say resource number 2 is Jessica Goodrich, the business librarian at the Capital Area District Library. And she works with companies. She goes out and presents. She will work one-on-one with a company to help do some of this market research. Also, the Gas Library at MSU also offers some of those resources as well. You'll need to go there. But there are a lot of resources so you can better understand your market.
And you were saying that you guys work with the SBA, LCC, obviously. Oh, at least you guys. The other office is in at Grand Valley, correct?
Right.
And then you work also a lot with the MEDC.
Yeah, we're funded through those 2 organizations.
And are there any other obviously there's all kinds of organizations that work with you guys in some fashion, but are there any other organizations that are typically tied in with the SBDC?
Yeah, we refer to it as the ecosystem, and when we're talking about economic development, that's really what we're doing. We're charged to help create businesses that create jobs. Right. And so there are lots of other organizations. LEAP is one. We'd call them strategic partners, maybe. LEAP is a great organization. They're not doing so much the one-on-one counseling, but they have opportunities and resources for funding. They actually just hosted the Hatching, which was the final year-end business pitch competition, and then a new one will take place at the end of January. So if you have a new idea for a business, go to thehatching.org.
And it was a baker that won it this year, correct?
Yeah, a gluten-free baker. Sweet Encounter. And LEAP is also working with larger businesses as well. They do a lot of attraction and retention, so they're involved in many areas. Certainly lots of the chambers we would consider to be strategic partners. There are lots of organizations, and of course, I'm not coming up with a whole list of them right now.
Yeah, like the business plan with Ryan Carpenter.
Yes, exactly.
Speaking of which, we're going to go to a quick break. And when we come back, I'll have some more questions, and Lori and I will banter back and forth here. So again, I really appreciate you guys listening to the program. This is The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter on your community station, 89.7 LCC Radio.
You're listening to The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter podcast. Like us on Facebook at Business Plan Radio and follow us on Twitter at BizPlan Radio. That's B-I-Z Plan Radio. You can view our latest content on our Business Plan Radio YouTube channel. The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter airs Monday nights at 7 on your community station, 89.7 in mid-Michigan, or online at lccradio.org.
All right, welcome back. Thank you guys for sticking with us. This is The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter, a place for business owners, entrepreneurs, professionals, and students to come learn, get motivated, and have a discussion on how we can change the way in which business operates. So I appreciate you coming back with us. Again, I have Lori Lonsdorf with us with the Small Business Development Center located here at Lansing Community College. Again, Lori, I really appreciate you coming in today.
Hey, thanks so much for asking me.
So we were talking before we came out of before we went into that last break about some of the different things that the SBDC does. The 3 main things that you had touched on were consulting, training, and research. Mm-hmm. We spoke a little bit about the research, but in terms of the consulting, that's obviously going to be probably, in my opinion, one of the more important things that you guys do. Again, consulting is extremely expensive. If I were to go and find an actual consultant company to come help me with a remedial task that I may not really need much help with, but just get some guidance.
Right.
So why don't you talk a little bit more about some of the things you guys do from a consulting standpoint? I personally have actually been consulted with you guys before, so I already know, but my listeners don't. So why don't you just kind of fill them in a little bit more as to what the consulting actually entails?
Yeah, well, business owners or would-be business owners may come to us at any point throughout that business life cycle. So somebody who is looking to start a business, we mentioned a little bit earlier that they may be looking for a loan. So sometimes they have no idea what they need to do, or they may have actually been referred by a lender and they said, come to the SBDC because you need a business plan. So when we sit down, I'm not going to write it for them. We often say we're a little like Weight Watchers, and we provide the resources and the counseling and the support. But the reality is, that client has to lose the weight. So our clients have to do the work themselves. But we do it in kind of a back and forth method. So I walk them through. We've got templates for everything. There's no, you don't have to reinvent the wheel and do this from scratch. And I actually have resources for all kinds of mock business plan websites. So, I'll walk people through kind of some of the things they need to start doing. How do you talk about your products and services? What are some of the key things that a lender might want to know about your business? Well, how are you formed? Oh, what does that mean? Well, that's the structure of your business. Are you a sole proprietor? And if I just woke up one day and wanted to run a business, in fact, I was a sole proprietor as a writer. That's what I would be. But if I actually want to form my business, which means registering it with the state, I might want to become a limited liability company. And then larger businesses might look at becoming a corporation. And so we need to make sure we're expressing that. And are you going to hire employees? Really, you're describing the entire planned structure and operation of your business.
Yeah, when we went through that process with you guys, we worked with Jody. And it was awesome because a lot of times, when you're starting a business, you bounce ideas off people, but for the most part, it's all in your head, right? I mean, you're kind of the one that has to deal with everything.
Yeah.
And what I really enjoyed was being able to have that conversation with someone who, wasn't coming at it from an angle of, I got to listen to see what pings I can turn around and try and sell him on. It was really, this is what I believe will help you to get to where you're trying to get to. And, and you don't really come across that too much in business. I mean, usually it's, how much you're going to pay me and that's how much I'm going to work for you. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So that was awesome going through that with you guys. And so other resources though, outside of actually doing the consulting, doing the training is obviously another big thing.
Yeah.
I'm one of the few people that have 2 bachelor's degrees and am now going for an associate's.
You're a little backwards, aren't you?
I'm doing it a little bit backwards, but having gone through college, I realized how big of a benefit community colleges are financially, in terms of tapping into the resources that they have available and things along those lines. So, really, I mean, I'm just doing it more as a continued education. I always want to learn. I started a radio show that's educational based, because that's how I am. I really like learning things. But so training is very important.
Yeah.
Obviously to stay relevant and things along those lines. But from the training standpoint, you were talking a little bit before we started this program about some of your online things that you guys have going. Is there an online platform like a online school that you can essentially go through the SBDC? Is it like a YouTube page with just some videos, or how does that typically work?
Yeah, we're not quite there yet. And we've only just started doing some online. We started a couple of years ago with our first webinars. We took we used to have a 10-week in-house program on business planning, and we would take a certain number of businesses through doing that, and then we moved it online. We moved it down to 8 weeks, and it was 1 hour, and then they also worked with a consultant, and so that's where we started. But now we're doing a variety of just individual topics that they can tap into. We're not quite to that YouTube or SBDC University
Right.
page yet. And I hope for the future that we'll be doing that nationally. We haven't plugged into that, but that's part of the vision of having a national organization.
And I think that's really where the resources to be able to do something like that would really come into play.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
absolutely.
Obviously, setting up a university is not super easy to do, but
Right. But we do provide a lot of ongoing repeat classes and, kind of the fundamentals of what you need to know. Writing a business plan, starting a business. We have been doing something called marketing your business. Now we're going to take it in a whole new direction because it seemed like it was a little too theory-based. And really business owners are looking to know, what do I need to do to get my name out there? And so starting in January, we're going to be doing a lunch and learn once a month. It's Marketing Mondays, so it'll be on a Monday. And we're going to bring in experts.
It's a good day to have a program.
It is, right? Because the week's just packed, I think. And
Yeah.
I think we all say that. And I'm hoping that lunchtime is going to be a good, convenient time for people. And it's going to be free. We're going to bring in a lot of different experts, people who can help with talk about websites, media, press releases, hopefully blogging and podcasts maybe. I'm looking for some people who might have some expertise in that. So.
I think I might know a couple of people.
Yeah, okay.
So you're talking about how you guys really kind of help people no matter where they're at in their business cycle, and kind of the more fun thing to talk about is starting businesses.
Yeah.
But I would think that most companies don't actually have exit strategies. So when it comes to that portion of the life cycle, do you guys help businesses in terms of whether maybe they're in a process of selling it or closing and things along those lines? Do you guys help with those services too?
Yeah, we can, absolutely. We really do help at the complete life of the business. Now, it's interesting when you talk about the exit strategy. Well, we have many businesses that have no intention of exiting, and maybe the owner does at some point, or
Right.
the president, because we work with a lot of existing businesses, 2 years, 20 years, 50 years, and I kid you not, we have several business clients that have been operating for over 100 years.
Wow.
Yeah, which is really exciting. You think back of what Lansing must have been like
Yeah.
when those businesses were started.
Well, and I think that really alludes to how important a resource like the SBDC is. If a company's been around 100 years, typically you would think they got it figured out, right? They don't really need much help. But
Things change.
they're still
Everything
coming.
changes.
You got to be relevant. Things change, like you're saying. I mean, we're going to be having the Michigan Chamber of Commerce in here, and they focus more on the political side. And typically you think of Chamber of Commerce, you think of kind of a networking thing.
Right.
They focus a little bit more on the political side of
Advocacy.
pushing some of those things. And every quarter you could potentially be faced with different regulations, different taxing, different things that are going on. So you gotta keep your finger on the pulse.
How about technology? Actually, we are going to, I don't have a date yet, but we are going to be doing a program on cybersecurity, because this is a hot topic in the smallest of the businesses. Nobody knows what to do. Nobody knows where the threats are. But yeah, it's just constantly changing in terms of what you need to know. You do have to stay relevant.
Yeah, and I know, like, especially with cybersecurity, there's certain protocols that you have to go through in order to really be using, swiping credit cards and taking people's information, from a network security standpoint. I don't know that everyone really knows what those regulations are.
Right. I got to tell you, a lot of people, they're just, average people who had a great idea or a passion and went into business. They opened a retail store to sell baby items. Well, you think that person is thinking, about technology and knows how to do everything? They don't.
Right.
And a lot of them don't have the budget to pay for the high priced tech advisor. So we try and bring information to our clients however we can.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I have a business background. I have two of my bachelors are actually in business in some form. So, but even I don't really know a lot of times. I mean, you really don't know until you're going through it.
Yeah. And we say it's lonely at the top. This is one of the biggest struggles for the owner of the business. And they just don't have anyone to talk to, and they don't have anyone to share with it because, maybe their spouse can understand, but a lot of times they can't share some of that information with their employees, and they just don't have friends who are going through it. And so, we can provide that confidential kind of sounding board for somebody who's going through that.
Yeah, and that's the big thing moving forward is just for me to be able to have an organization that I can, come to and say, okay, this is what I'm thinking of, and get some honest feedback, not tainted because again, they're trying to find a way that they can sell me something or anything along those lines, but it's really to help people, and so that's a fabulous thing.
Yeah,
we need more of the actually. We don't necessarily need more of them, but we just need people to know that these things exist, and so hopefully after this show, some of the listeners who weren't familiar with the SBDC, you can go on to the website if you want some more information, and the website is
sbdcmichigan.org.
sbdcmichigan.org. So if anything that we're talking about today piques your interest, or if you have any questions or need to get any more information, that website would be a good location to get some of that. So feel free to tap into that resource. Excuse me. So back to just business in general.
Yeah.
Kind of away from the SBDC for a second. In terms of what you've been doing locally and touching with some of the different business owners, you probably have a better gauge of the way everything's going right now currently than what just some random person would. So have you noticed any trends or anything like that in terms of the way Lansing currently is going?
Yeah, I think people might be surprised to understand there's actually an employee shortage, finding great employees, those who came out of the recession might not realize that good employees are hard to find right now. And that's one of the biggest struggles I'm hearing from a lot of the business owners I work with.
And so what do you think that is? Do you think that when the recession hit, a lot of people started kind of going into business themselves?
Oh, I think it's lots of things. I think those that may have been laid off were in different areas now than where we need the skills. We need the skills more technology-based, and maybe we were more in manufacturing before. And then, we combine that with that struggle to keep young people here, so to fill those jobs. Right. So I think it's multiple things right now, kind of a perfect storm, creating sort of this lack of pool of employees.
Well, fortunately, we do have some pretty big schools that that employers could really tap into.
Yeah.
Is there kind of a breakdown somewhere in terms of the interaction with the schools and employers in terms of being able to help them find those workers and also to help keep some of that talent here?
Yeah, I guess that may be a little bit outside of my area. The biggest interactions that I have is really through the internships with the companies I work with. And that's my connection with the schools. But I don't really have my finger on the pulse of the different programs.
And then so that's another way that they could potentially utilize your services in terms of trying to find adequate interns and things along those lines.
Hey, I'm going to give another resource. And
go for it.
Okay. This takes place. Oh gosh, actually takes place tomorrow.
You mean last week?
Yeah.
This show is being recorded. Typically, all of our shows are going to be live moving forward, but yes, this one is recorded. So.
Yeah, the Arts Council is putting on an a program on how to find interns. But there are programs that take place, every semester regarding that. Both MSU and LCC have actually just websites you can go to, and you post your job description. You post it as though it's a job, and depending on whether you can compensate or not compensate somebody, it's a great way to get someone to help you with an aspect of your business. Good sides and downsides. great side is you might get a free employee essentially for maybe 9, 10, 12 hours a week. Downside is you have to really structure it. You have to provide them with a meaningful experience. So I have a lot of people say, hey, I want a marketing intern. Okay, I've had marketing interns, and man, they are some of the sharpest people I got to experience. But I had to provide a lot of structure, and this was the first marketing job they'd ever had. Right. All three of them. They all had some marketing experience. It was a social media position, and they knew social media, but they'd never done it in the context of a business. I had to guide them through our brand and our guidelines, and I checked all their posts for the first couple weeks to make sure they were following and doing the kind of thing that I wanted. So that takes a lot of hands-on time for a business owner. But I think it's a great way to plug into some of the young talent that we have here in our community.
I think you touched on something that, that I don't think people really think about. I think a lot of times you think, okay, I want an intern, right? I just want some free labor.
Yeah.
But I don't think they really tap into the full potential of that intern by not having some type of a program or say, this is what we will be doing in your internship. This is what you will be accomplishing. This is where this is where it ends. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So at least they know what the goal of it is.
Yeah.
Do you guys work with businesses in terms of helping to develop like an actual internship program or to help really kind of hone in on what it is that, the ways in which they could really benefit from having those interns other than just being a labor?
Yeah, I can't say we've gotten that structured yet, but kind of on a one-off basis, I've walked people through some of the things they might need to do. I share my job description that I created when I had a social media person and, walk them through some of the processes that they might need to think about when they are looking for someone. But maybe next steps would be, putting a little more structure in place to help some of those business owners.
Do you guys have anything coming up that our listeners should take advantage of? I know that obviously with the holidays and things like
slow.
That, it'll probably be
it's going to be a little slow through the end of the year. I think we just gave our last training program, but we will have Marketing Mondays starting on January 11th. That'll be Monday from 12 to 1. It's a lunch and learn. And beyond that, I'm going to say check out our schedule because it's going to be an interesting year. I think we're going to try out some new types of trainings and some new content.
And then, is there a way that other companies can, from more of a help standpoint, is there ways that other businesses can get involved with the SBDC in terms of what it is that you guys are strategically trying to do?
So do you mean to offer some kind of counseling, like when I came here and I volunteered originally?
Yeah, or like for instance, I think I had approached you guys with the potential of like putting together like a video package.
Oh yeah. Or number one, I'd say if you have an idea for a training program, if you're in the marketing field, you want to participate in our Marketing Mondays, give us a call, and I'd love to have a chat. We do occasionally have attorneys and accountants. They're set up to maybe give one pro bono hour of sort of consulting time. They don't actually, the attorney can't actually review documents. But if there are any small business attorneys that would like to think about, working with our organization, or any CPAs, we'd certainly be happy to chat with you. And there might be some businesses out there we just haven't considered, how they might be able to help other small businesses.
Awesome. Well, Lori, thank you so much for coming in. You came in graciously for our pilot episode, so being able to come in for the first episode also is fabulous to have you on here. So thanks again, and again, anything that you guys have going on, feel free to reach out to me and let me know, and I will be happy to let the listener community know of upcoming events, resources, and things like that. So,
Yeah, I will absolutely keep you posted, and it's been a pleasure being here today, Ryan.
Perfect. Well, you guys have been listening to the business plan. Again, I told you that I was going to give you some of the information and ways that you can engage and connect with us. So you can find us on Facebook. Obviously, everyone's on Facebook. But you can find us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Business Plan Radio. We're also on Twitter, which is at BizPlan Radio, which is BIZ Plan Radio. Our Gmail account, if you guys have questions or suggestions in terms of people maybe we should be interviewing or topics that you would like some light shined on, feel free to email us, or you can interact with us in any of those social media sites we just told you. But the email is businessplanradio@gmail.com. That's businessplanradio@gmail.com. And again, this week is pre-recorded. So moving forward, we're actually going to be live. And I really urge you guys to please be engaged with us, because the whole point of this program is to create a dialogue. And it's not much of a dialogue if it's just me talking. Even I get tired of that. So please feel free to give us any suggestions or send us any questions that you may have. We look forward to having this discussion with you every week, and we will see you next time here on your community station, 89.7 LCC Radio.
This has been The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter Podcast. Like us on Facebook at Business Plan Radio, and follow us on Twitter at BizPlan Radio. That's BIZ Plan Radio. You can view our latest content on our Business Plan Radio YouTube channel. The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter airs Monday nights at 7 on your community station, 89.7 in Mid-Michigan, or online at lccradio.org.